Okay, we are now live streaming. I'm going to call the meeting to order. At this time, I'd like to remind council and municipal staff that this meeting is being live streamed to the public. All council meetings are also recorded. Recordings will be available to the public on the township's YouTube account. Physical attendance of the public at this meeting is restricted due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This meeting is held electronically under Bylaw 2020-70 to amend Procedural Bylaw 2018-117 pursuant to Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. And we will move to the adoption of the agenda. There are some amendments to the agenda and one amendment and one addition. Under 6.1.5, we have the addition of the Local Authorities Guide, Vessel Operation Restriction Regulations. That was a document that I had sent to go to council to get the background information on that. And under 11.1.4, Property Tax Arrears Report by the Deputy Treasurer dated June 1st, 2021. So with that, the recommendation is that the council and committee meeting for Tuesday, June 1st, 2021 be the agenda for the council and committee meeting for Tuesday, June 1st, 2021 be approved as amended. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Schulist. All those in favor? And that's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Councillor
None here.
Bromwich. Councillor Bromwich? Did you want to speak to that? You need your mic on.
Jeez, those leaves. 6.1.3, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest. It's family involved, so I will remove myself from that discussion until it's finished and maybe let you deal with it, or you, Sue, yes?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll forward the email so that you can sign that and forward it back to me so it can be attached to the agenda, please. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. And I can chair for that small section, Councillor, during your committee. All right, any others? I haven't missed anyone. Okay, seeing no
None
others.
here.
Then we'll move to delegations. And this morning we have Jennifer Gruntz of MPAC with us regarding the province-wide assessment update that obviously is continuing to be postponed due to the COVID pandemic. Welcome, Jennifer. It's really nice to have you here.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me here today. I have a small slideshow, so I will share my screen and we'll go over a few things. So just give me a second here, please.
No problem.
Okay, so are you able to see the slideshow come up here?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. So, sorry, lots of technical things here. Okay. Perfect. All right. So thank you very much for having me here today. I really appreciate the time, and I promise won't take too long. But my thought was I would just give a quick update on some of the work objects that MPAC is working on right now, some information on the assessment update and where we're at with that, and as well as some local issues that I've been speaking with some of the municipal staff regarding. So I can give a few updates on those topics. And then when I'm finished or throughout, if anyone has questions, please feel free to interject. I can do my best to answer them at that time. So my name is Jennifer Gruntz, and I'm the local account manager in the Pembroke office. I'm born and raised in Pembroke and have worked for MPAC for 10 years. My first 9 years were actually in the valuation field, where I completed a lot of field work. One of my areas actually was Barry's Bay in Greater Madawaska, so it was nice and quite familiar with the territory. And then just before the pandemic, I actually moved into the municipal relations field, and I've been enjoying my switch to assisting all of the municipalities through Renfrew County since. So it's been a nice change. Next slide. So just quickly, I'll go over what we do. So the Assessment Office, or Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, also known as MPAC, assesses and classifies every property in Ontario, from single-family homes, commercial buildings, industrial factories, farmland. Our database is one of the most complex in the world. It has over 5 million properties, and it's collectively worth $3 trillion. So our property assessments provide the foundations for Ontario property tax system. Every municipality in Ontario uses our assessments as the foundations to make informed decisions about how they'll invest back into their communities. So our job is to make sure that those assessments reflect the market at a certain point in time, deliver focused, good customer focus, and providing any changing to the ever-growing landscape. So we have 4 key players that did make up Ontario's property assessment and taxation system. First being the Government of Ontario. So the provincial government sets legislation and policies that MPAC'S uses to assess properties, including the valuation date, which coincides with our assessment update every 4 years. There's also an independent body that adjudicates our MPAC appeals, and that's known as the Assessment Review Board. In addition, then we have MPAC, which determines property assessments for all properties in Ontario. And we do this using 3 approaches to value. So there's a direct comparison approach, which is also known as a sales approach, income approach, and cost. Then, as you guys are well aware, the municipalities set the tax rates based on the revenue requirements in order to pay municipal services. So the tax rates determine how much property tax each property owner is going to fairly pay to fund the municipal services that we rely on in each of our communities. And then property owners, again, are subject to paying the property taxes, on the property assessments to support their communities and the services that are provided. So the burning question that everyone has on the top of their mind is when the next new province-wide assessment will occur. So as you're aware, the update was to occur in 2020, and then the pandemic hit. So the government decided to pause on the assessment update for not only 2020, but also for 2021. So unfortunately, we don't have a date yet. We don't know when the assessment update will occur. We don't know what the valuation date will be, or if there's changes to potentially to anything with the phase-in cycle that typically is 4 years, but due to potentially what the date might be, there could be legislative changes that may affect the phase-in as well. However, once we do know, we will certainly share that information. And typically when reassessments occur, I would request a delegate at the council meeting so I can inform you guys of information based on trends, shifts in certain sectors, market changes, and just how this new date or potential changes to any legislation is going to affect your municipality. So, however, just because the assessment update has been paused doesn't mean that our work stops. So regardless of any other, if this was a normal assessment cycle, we would still be doing our maintenance throughout the remaining 3 years. So that means that we are closely working with municipalities and property owners to capture changes. We work on reviewing building permits and plans to capture growth, conduct property inspections where it's safe to do so, which the pandemic changed that a little bit for us because obviously with the restrictions and whatnot. So for residential properties, we were only able to do exterior inspections. Currently at this point with the stay-at-home order, the property inspectors are not able to go out and do their inspections at this point. So we've had to pivot and kind of make the best of what we can do at this point in time. We also deal with people who feel their property assessments are inaccurate and make those updates as needed, typically through the request for reconsideration process or appeal process, if that's the way it goes. So in addition, we constantly monitor the real estate market. We analyze sales, including rents, financial statements, operating expenses, and other market data to ensure that our records are up to date. We receive a nightly update from Terranet that passes along all the sales. So in turn, that updates all of our ownership, but it also gives us an indication of what's selling, and we can compare those sales to our assessed value in works to keep going forward to make sure that we're on the right track when the date does actually be announced. So we also engage with our municipal, industry, and government partners to help us understand what's happening at just not only a local, regional, and provincial level, as it's important to incorporate all 3. So our continued work is going to really set us up to be in a good position when the valuation date excuse me, is announced, the maintenance, and that's MPAC's goal right now, is just to make sure that we have all of our stuff up to date. So when it does happen, we can flip the switch and get going and make sure that we're going to be reflective of what the market's indicating based on that date. So one thing we do know, and I'd like to reiterate, because I think it's important that it's noted, is that I'm sure you get many questions, is that property values continue to be based on the market date of January 1st, 2016. So that was our last valuation date. And that would have been the last point that we would have determined what every single property in Ontario could reasonably be sold for at its current state and condition. So anytime we make changes to properties, so for example, for permits or sales, tax applications, improvements, the property assessments where that value is still based on that January 1st, 2016 valuation date. So which means every property continues to be valued at the same point and then in turn taxed fairly. So with it being so many years out, it's hard to remember that, and sometimes doesn't always sink into citizens, or if they just need some education pieces around that. Next, building permits. So we know that building permits are a really important piece of the puzzle for municipalities. You rely on us to take the permits and plans and turn them into assessment and growth to keep your municipality operating. So we arrive at assessed values of each residence or property based on 5 main components. So the location, lot size, quality of construction, square footage, and age. Although there's over 200 or more factors that we also, we also account for, these 5 make up 85% of the value. So the assessed value is derived from like a certain set of criteria, making it fair and equitable to all citizens. So at times you may notice that the permit values may differ from what's on the assessment, because this is how those 5 main factors are what the value of the structures and property are hinged on. So many construction projects kept operating during shutdowns, and that challenged us to find a way of how we were going to assess them with the limitations on field work and whatnot. So we were quite good at keeping open communication with municipalities and developing some relationships with the building departments to obtain some of these plans that we've needed in order to keep our service level agreements and be able to capture the growth that's required. Some of the other ways that we did kind of pivot and change to accommodate was we added an extra 2 weeks to capture a new assessment at the end of last year. We built a safe way to share digital building plans electronically. And we also launched a curbside pickup program to collect building plans and implemented an in-office viewing plans where instances couldn't be shared electronically or couldn't be done through curbside pickup. I realize with being sometimes a smaller municipality, we don't have the resources to either scan things, or we're not getting plans that are in a digital format, making it challenging to share. So in your municipality, we were able to get the plans through the building staff through an in-office setting, and it was great. They were excellent to work with. They set up a nice, safe space for everyone, and we've been able to continue capturing growth in your municipality, which is excellent. So currently, our on-site inspections are still on pause due to the government restrictions, but fingers crossed that we'll be able to get back out there soon and get back on track. So that's pretty much for that. And just a couple local concerns that I had been speaking to some of the municipal staff about, and one surrounding shipping containers. And I think we're all aware that these are becoming a lot more common in both commercial and residential properties. So just a little clarification around how we do assess these structures and when they are or are not accessible. So we do assess shipping containers just depending on the degree of permanency. The value added to the structure or to the property is quite minimal. Maybe as an estimate, maybe about $3,000 an assessment that might add to it. What we would do is we would assess the structure on there, and we would use that structure size and the age year built, and that would be how it would be done. So once the information is collected and you're satisfied that the container have a degree of permanency, it actually falls within the definition of land under Section 1 of the Assessment Act, and then then it's further based on use. So for an example, if you have an automotive dealer in your area, quite often they'll use these shipping containers to store their tires. So in that instance, what would happen is we would assess this shipping container onto the property. In turn, it would be classified commercial and then taxed at the commercial rate. For residential properties, if say they're used more as like a shed or a garage type storage, it would be the same. We would assess it as residential and it would be taxed as residential. There are instances where we don't assess them. Say people will be building a house and they'll be using it just for their building supplies and it's temporary. Then in those instances, we don't assess the trailers or the shipping containers. So just to give you a little bit of clarification around that, where I've often heard of other instances where they've been using these to send people's house supplies from one location to the next, so they're only on site for about a month. So, and the other topic was the assessment for guidelines for trailers. So there's two main factors that come into play about whether a trailer is accessible. If the trailer exceeds 8 feet 6 inches, it requires an oversized permit for road travel by the Ministry of Transportation. So that would be one criteria. If it exceeds that size, it would be accessible. Second, if the trailer has an enclosed structure, so a sunroom, an enclosed porch, a garage, something that's built in 2x6 construction or wood frame construction. And typically these are reviewed on an individual basis because trailers vary so greatly from one to another. And some of the other criteria would be usually the construction quality of that attached structure is usually equal or greater construction quality than the trailer. So if the trailer is accessible, then we would use the trailer square footage and account for the enclosed space or the sunroom or what be the carport, etc. of what's there. So it's really a kind of a on basis. They vary so greatly that it's hard to give there's no one foul swoop. It needs to be looked at individually. And we often know that you get questions from your constituents about our assessments. So just a reminder that About My Property is a really great online tool available through MPAC'S, where owners can see the information that we have on file. They can learn how we assess their property, how their assessments compare to others in the area. It's also where we share really detailed information about our work, like we have our methodology guide, our market valuation report, and property specific details that together explain quite well how the assessed values are arrived at. So this is also part of our commitment to clearly and openly explaining our property assessment process and how we arrive at it. One additional thing is there's a great 3-minute video on our YouTube channel that explains how properties are assessed. So it's a real quick, simple way that is quite helpful if people are needing some education piece. So the other option that About My Property has is if the homeowner disagrees with their property value or classification, they can go onto this website and request for reconsideration to be submitted, which is free of charge. So that's pretty much it for me. You can always contact myself or Ashley Richards. So she is the account support coordinator and she supports both Pembroke and Kingston office. And so we're both here to help out with anything that you guys may require. So thank you very much for having me here today. And I'm happy to take on any questions that you may have.
Okay, great, Jennifer. Just had to check that my mic was on. Is it possible to stop sharing the screen? Great, because then I can see everybody.
Okay.
All right, fantastic. Any members of council have any questions for Jennifer? Okay, I know I have a few. Okay, just to start off with, you mentioned there's a video that talks about how assessments are done. Is that something that we could have a link for to put on our website? Because I think a lot of property owners really don't understand that process.
Yes, absolutely. What I will do is I can send an email to whoever, like to Gwen or whoever set up the appointment. And we actually have a whole array of videos on our YouTube channel, ranging from webinars, all different type of topics on managed forest, how the property's assessments work, etc., like that. So I can share that, and that can be put out there so people can peruse that on their own.
That would be great, because I think if people sometimes come to their municipality first, and if there's an easy connection for them to go to the material that MPAC's already developed,
Yes.
that would be very helpful. It gets them getting the right information, and that's so important when they want to understand their property assessment.
Yes.
Jennifer, so I guess everybody is asking the question, when is this going to be updated? When is this going to be updated? Because we all recognize that there's been certain changes in the market, especially in our area. There's certainly much greater demand for waterfront properties as a result of the pandemic. And we anticipate there will be some significant potential shifts in market valuation when this reassessment is done. I think that probably is what's got us worried, that it will have impact. It impacts properties in ways sometimes that affect individuals who've had cottages for a very long time, for example, in their family, multi-generation, and it gets valued to a point where the shift in taxation that occurs because their properties are higher valued makes it difficult for them to maintain them as intergenerational family properties. But I think one of the things you mentioned in your presentation in terms of municipalities was that it is our job to determine the taxation that we need, not to just ride the wave of a higher assessment value in our properties. We do determine exactly what we need, and then we tax for that. So often as assessments go up, tax rates do actually come down because a municipality is collecting what's needed to do the work that we do. And I really appreciate that you did point that out. I don't want our property owners to be concerned as they see the flurry of market activity in our area and some of the very high prices that we are seeing properties sell for, that they could be in very difficult circumstances if we were to just keep the same tax rate, but the assessment all went up. So I really appreciate that you pointed that out. I think where I want to ask you some more detailed questions is about trailers. Oh, we love trailers. So when you talked about permanency, you talked specifically about an addition to the trailer. I'm just wondering, is there any sense of permanency given to trailers for it being connected to hydro and a well and a septic? These are all very, very permanent type connections. Is there any, does that play any factor in that determination of whether or not it's accessible? Sorry.
So it would be a factor that would be considered. It wouldn't be the main criteria to do so, but what we can do, if there's a well or septic, we would still apply that to the land. So it might not be hinged to the trailer, but it would get assessed on that property for that, if that helps.
Okay, but if we could have a situation where a trailer was not being assessed because it wasn't considered permanent, even though it had those amenities.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear for council on that, because I know a lot of municipalities are struggling with the issue of trailers, and we do have a bylaw that allows for them to be there through a construction period on waterfront properties, but the expectation is that you will construct a cottage. You will not just, be there with the trailer and that's it.
Right.
That's sort of your idea of a cottage, because it is obviously a question of assessment, and having a trailer beside a really nice cottage, it does affect the neighborhood.
Yes.
Is there anything else in terms of trailers that we need to know that helps with permanency, such as if there were wheels on it and they were removed and it's up on a foundation or blocks, is that considered to be more permanent? Or is it again literally what MPAC'S sees on an individual basis?
So yes, and it's very individual, so it's really hard to give a one blanket answer. Those first two criteria are the big ones. If it doesn't have wheels, it doesn't necessarily mean that it can't be moved easily. There's lots of options. So the wheels and the tongue really don't come into play. It's mostly that something is constructed that's keeping it there. So many of the trailers that will have, say, a roof over it or an addition attached right to that trailer, because typically what will happen is they'll open the inside of the trailer up typically. So those would be considered accessible, but it really has to be like, just say it has a wooden deck. That's not, because what trailer can pull in, pull out, you can take that with you quite easily. So it's really the degree of permanency of what the trailers are. If it's septic, you can disconnect your septic. So if those type of criteria help, mainly the size is the big one.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. I don't envy MPAC having to sort through that and make that determination, because I'm certain that it leads to many discussions with trailer owners.
Yes.
Does staff have any questions for Jennifer? Anyone with any questions for Jennifer? Here's your opportunity, boy. MPAC is before us.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not seeing any. Oh, wait. Amanda, do you have a
There we
Amanda?
go.
There we are. I can
Sorry.
see you now.
Hi, Jennifer. So I know that you don't have a crystal ball, and so it'll be difficult to answer this probably, but are there ongoing discussions with the Ministry of Finance about the assessment dates for the reevaluations, or like has there been any leads as to when we can expect an announcement of what those dates might be?
So we don't have any inklings or have been told any leads or anything like that. I do believe by their fall budget, they're supposed to make some sort of announcement. So hoping for that. I'm wondering if they're waiting to see if the sales trend is going to die off, or if it's going to remain strong. Now that is my 2 cents. That's based on nothing. I'm speculating that I'm wondering if that's maybe part of it, because as Mayor Love has said, that is going to be a very big impact on potentially in certain areas for people. So I'm not entirely sure whether they'll set an evaluation date for pre-pandemic or post-pandemic. So I'm sorry, I don't have a great answer for you on that, but certainly keep you in the loop as best we can.
And I mean, if this is a blip in the real estate market, there is potential that these higher real estate values may not even be captured for 2 assessment cycles, right?
Because the next scheduled assessment would have been 2024. So whether they wait for 2 more years, which then that's now we're out 8 years. Do they change the phase-in values, right? Because typically the phase-in is 25% in each year, so at least it helps that gap. But if there is a larger increase, it's not such a immediate shock. So I'm not sure what to say and what's going to change, if it's just going to be the valuation date, if it's going to be the phase-in, is it going to be on an ongoing basis? So they're just going to change it for 1 year. There's so many unknown questions. It's really hard to answer.
I understand.
Hard to know. So
okay.
Thanks, Jennifer, you can definitely see that there will be some individuals who are impacted strongly by this, because while it may, as I mentioned, not necessarily mean a windfall for municipalities, because we factor in the assessment in our calculation of our tax rate. It does mean there could be some fairly significant tax shifting. Who's bearing the burden? Some assessments will be potentially a lot higher. Others may stay the same, meaning in effect they've gone down once you've factored that in. So we are all concerned to get to that point where we get caught up. And I'm sure MPAC is too, because that's quite a workload that you've got before you to get this all caught up.
Yeah, and we have a team that monitors the different trends that are happening in the different sectors. So like you said, right now, the residential sector is the one that continually is climbing, where hospitality on the other end is not so hot at this moment. But as people start to get more vaccinated and the nicer weather comes and the province starts opening some, lifting some restrictions, it'll be interesting to see what happens in these other sectors. And those are the things that we're really trying to monitor is, continual sales in the residential area, same with commercial, how the income is being affected for rentals and multi-residential properties, and then in turn the hospitality industry to see what's going to happen. So when they do, or we do get a go ahead for a date, that we're able to have had some really good analysis and able to make some sound decisions on what's going to happen. So
Right.
but
Right.
but I'll be glad to share once there is, like I had said before, once there is an announcement, I'm certainly happy to come back and give an update and, supply some of that information, like the market trends and what's happening in these different sectors. So
That would be great, Jennifer. And I think, it helps if people understand. Individual property owners who are being impacted may not be alone. And I know the government will be taking into consideration all the potential tax shifting that could be going on because of changes in market value that are driven by a very unusual market circumstances. I mean, this is not the normal. So yeah, absolutely. So we really would look forward to having you come back once you know what the valuation date is, and hopefully by then you may also know what the phase in will look like, and can just explain that again for council and for our taxpayers who do actually really enjoy the Zoom meetings and like to occasionally watch this reality TV to see what's going on in their community. So thank you, Jennifer, so much for being here. Final chance. Anyone have a question for Jennifer? I want to make sure everybody gets their questions answered. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands up. So thank you, Jennifer, so much. It's been great to have you here. I appreciate the information on sea containers and trailers. Always a fun thing for us to deal with. And sounds like it's even more complicated for MPAC'S.
Yeah.
I don't envy you, but you have a great day, and we look forward to when you can come back and update us.
Yes, thank you. And hopefully next time I may be able to meet you all in person.
Absolutely. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you
All
again
right.
for having me. Take
Okay.
care, everyone.
Take care,
Bye.
Jennifer. Bye-bye. Okay. Well, I think that was helpful. I hope it was helpful. I certainly learned some things about how MPAC does view these, trailers and sea containers. Okay, so we are at our standing committee part of our meeting. All recommendations from the standing committees are recommendations to council and are pending the approval of council at a subsequent meeting. And our first standing committee is Operations, Roads, and Waste Management. And I'm going to turn it over to Chair Bromwich until he gets to his item he's declared on.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mayor Kim Love. And I first want the 6.1.1 municipal report from Mike Phillips, and I'll give you a chance to talk about it here, Mike, if you just want to mention what you've done here. A lot of work being carried out. I'll let you elaborate on it.
Perfect. Thank you, Carl, and good morning, everyone. I'll just go through all my points here for the Public Works update. If anybody's got any questions, just stop me along the way. It's easiest. So we'll start out with I just put our tenders in here just for a quick update that we did a good job, got them out of the gate here nice and early, and everything was awarded with some fairly good prices, I think, even considering our COVID times. There's some pretty competitive pricing in our tenders, so that's a good thing. Barclays Waste Site, just an update on our pilot project with the debit machine. Everything I've heard there is it's going well, and lots of positive feedback from everyone that's using the new system, so that's good. Our brushing and dangerous tree removal has been ongoing throughout the spring, with one slightly larger project up on Upper Rosendahl. We did some nice brushing up there with the township staff, and we had some spare time. Washouts, it's been, as everyone knows, a lot better spring this year than our past few springs, so we've fared out pretty well. A couple of washouts there, I attached some pictures just from our friends the Beavers, a couple of blowouts, but nothing too serious, so that was good. Shouldering, our shouldering has been, maintenance program has been completed. And then we'll do our capital shouldering with our capital construction projects when they come here in the next little while. Hardtop patching has been going well. Definitely noticed a big, not decrease, but a lot easier time this spring because of our large paving projects in the last couple of years. The Pog Lake Road and the Old Baysville Road, of course, is a couple of large roads that are not requiring any patching anymore, which is very nice. Sweeping has all been completed with the exception of our contractor that does our in-town sweeping. He's actually going at it there right now, so it should be done here by the end of the week, and that will be that all wrapped up, which is good, nice and early, just 1st of June, and we're already finishing up, so that's a good thing. No parking emblems, all that are been painted throughout the town. Hasn't been super busy, so it's not a crucial, but it's get it done while it's nice and early. So parks, all the cleaning has been done, grass cutting and all the things have started already. Sides, large number of 911 sign installs this spring. We've noticed that for sure. Everything has been repaired from our winter maintenance. Calcium application is ongoing. We've had a couple of loads put down already, and we're just waiting for one more here to come. But like everyone else, I'm sure everyone else is in the same position we are. It's been a dry spring, so it's kind of a battle to get the truck booked, but hopefully we can get our final load out this week. And then capital projects, the Pog Lake is nearing completion here. They've got a lot of good early starts, and they finished up a lot of the things that they had to finish from last year. The topsoil and seed in the downtown general cleanup where they got snowed out there at the end of the year. So there are a bunch of things to clean up. They got that finished, reset all the manhole grades and did some asphalt repair work on those. Finished up the grading of all the entrances and repaving of some of the ones that need to be tied in. They hydrovac'd all the catch basins and storm sewers in that section where they were working, and pretty well finished. I think line painting was done. So I think they only have a few small items left to go, and that project will be completed. And that's it for my update. Any questions?
Great job, Mike. To you, Mayor Love.
Thank you, Chair. Mike, on one of the photos, I'm assuming it's Paw Lake Road because it looks like it's a paved surface. Well, the two photos of that, you've got two culverts going under the road, but the washout seems to be going along the road. Did the water come over the road, or I guess I'm asking, is there not sufficient culvert there, or did it do something else strange that isn't normal? Did it come down the side of the road?
No, it's that's actually the back end of Wolowski Drive.
Is it? Okay.
Sure, yeah. And there's two large culverts there you can see, but yeah, what happens is there must be a large headwater up somewhere up above that's very substantial, because it's happened now a couple of times, but it hasn't happened before, but it comes over the road, you can see, and it actually, just the water going over the edge of the road scalps it all out. So I don't think there's, in that general area, when it happens, I don't think there's a size of culvert that would stop it from going over, because it happens quick and it goes over a substantial amount.
Okay, that answers my question. I wondered if it was a lack of culverts, or if it was a freak action of the water that it's not carried through by the culvert. So thank you for the explanation.
Any further questions from council? I see none. There's no recommendations, just accept as information, I believe. Thank you, Mike, very much. Well done.
Okay.
Thank you. Next item, 6.1.2, municipal report from Hillary regarding a tender for truck and plow opening. So could you open the discussion up with that, Hillary, if you wouldn't mind?
Good morning.
Morning.
Tenders 2021-04, 3/4 ton plow and truck was advertised, and we had one tender received, and it's within the budgeted amount. Well, $500 out, but so one tender. I believe that the problem we're having out there is it's hard to get vehicles, and like with everything. So one tender is better than none. So it's within budget, and the recommendation is to accept this tender. It's
Okay.
facing Unit 50.
Unit 50. Should I leave the recommendation, take them as we come, Sue, individually? I think, eh?
Yes,
Would you
please.
read
It's
would you read the
easier if,
recommendation?
absolutely. It is easier
Mhm.
for minute taking if we do the resolutions
Okay.
as we go.
Mhm.
So through the chair, that tender MV 2021-04 for a 3/4 ton plow and truck is awarded to Summers Brothers Motors Limited in the amount of $72,760.70 HST included, subject to requirements of the tender, and that it be applied against account 1508147999998 equipment capital expenditure.
And also move that. Could I have a seconder, please? Dave Schulist. And any further questions from council? To you, Mayor Love. First, I'll get to
Thank you,
Steve Hart.
Chair. I just wondered, when we tender a truck like this, do we actually notify other dealerships? Like, are dealerships notified that we're tendering, or are we relying on them seeing an ad in the newspaper or coming across the tender on our website?
I have notified them in the past, but nobody is interested, it seems. So
Okay,
I
no,
don't
no,
know,
I just,
Pembroke,
and
yeah.
you can't make them interested?
No,
I just thought if they're actually getting something, you know, coming to them, a notification that we're tendering, then you're doing everything you can do. It was, my only suggestion was, if you weren't doing that, maybe we should be, just to see if we got a little more competitive pricing. But Hillary, you can only
No.
do what you can do when you're letting them know and they don't
No.
they don't submit a
Correct.
tender. Thank you.
Mark, you had a question?
Mine was basically the same as Mayor Love's, and so it's been answered. I'm just surprised that we don't get more than one tender on something like that, even given the times. You'd think people would be looking for business.
Thank you. Any further comments? Could I then call for vote, please? All in favor? And that recommendation is passed. Thank you very much, Hillary, for your work on that one. I'm going to remove myself for the next item, 6.1.3, pass it over to Mayor Love, and I'll be back when it's finished. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And so noted that you've declared on 6.1.3, which is Philip and Sandra Skibo additional entrance. And I guess I will turn it over to Hillary to speak to that.
Okay, thank you. Subject to bylaw 214-139, section 5. When somebody wants additional entrances, they have to fill out a report and with the measurements, everything else, and then it comes to council. I reviewed this application and it meets the criteria and intent of bylaw 139, section 5 in relation to the additional entrance. The purpose is for access to the northern portion of the land owned by Philip and Sandra Skibo. Located on Well-Known Road North, Lot 1, Concession 5, Sherwood, roll number 026-020-11400. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Hillary on this application for an additional entrance? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So Sue, did you want to read the recommendation?
Yes, please. That the entrance application 2021-25 meets the criteria and intent of bylaw 2014-139, section 5 in relation for an additional driveway for the purpose of access to the northern portion of land owned by Philip and Sandra Skibo located in the vicinity of Wilno Road North, Lot 1, Concession 7, Sherwood Roll, number 026-020-11400 be approved by council.
Okay, could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Schulist. Any discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Chair Bromwich, if you'd like to return, I will hand the meeting back over to you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Love. Thank you for that, folks. Item 6.1.4, this is a pretty hot topic. Gwen has a report here. If you could speak to it, Gwen, maybe about illegal dumping The recommendation is just for receive as information, so I don't think we need a vote on it, but could you give us a little bit of background on this, Gwen? Thank you.
Can you hear me? No, sometimes
Yes, we can.
Okay. So we've had a few emails and some concerns about the illegal dumping that's going on within the township. I will add that it's not just a local problem. It does, there's problems all over the place with illegal dumping, and other municipalities are feeling the same. Further on in our agenda, there's a email from Wendy Wallach, who's asking us to consider advertising and push for higher fines. I won't speak to the fine portion. Perhaps Corey could speak to that. I think as part of direction from council, we can further advertise and put messaging out there about the dumping and how we can curb it. We have been trying really hard with through Pitch in Canada, which we provide bags to anybody who asks. They're clear garbage bags, and they have been great. The residents have been absolutely great picking up garbage. Our public works guys goes around, grabs the garbage on the side of the roads, tires, or whatever else that is found, and they take it to the dump free of charge. We've had a lot of emails coming in at info@Madawaska Valley actually thanking us for our Pitch in Canada promotion, which I think is great because they're not only going out and picking up garbage, but they take the time to write us to tell us where the garbage is, and that they appreciate that we are trying to curb illegal dumping in the municipality. Some things that probably have held back with our promotions are that we don't have the Girl Guides, we don't have Boy Scouts picking up garbage this year or last year. We also don't have the students from the high school volunteering their time, which I think they contact Hillary and he'll set them up on a road if they want their volunteer hours for the year. So, and that has been changed due to COVID. So there has been some changes, but I think people are trying really hard. And I think that's about it for my report.
Thank you very much, Gwen. Yeah, I've noticed an uptick on garbage on the side of the road just in our own local area, and everybody else seems to find the same thing. And I don't really know if I think it might be a lot of visitors in town. The Tim Hortons cups are in their ditches, and local people are picking them up. And I noticed in Facebook the last few days, there's been a massive cleanup campaign by several groups that have unbelievable amount of garbage being picked up. So it's an ongoing problem. I remember the day when they used to charge you $500 for throwing a cup out the window on a highway. That's gone down the road, and they're calling for that to come back again. So I think the Ontario government is working on something, but that's yet to be seen. So this is timely, and I would, if you just need direction from to staff to continue with advertising this on our website, Gwen and Sue, is that correct?
Yeah, so the recommendation is that the illegal dumping report is received as information and that staff is encouraged to continue using social media tools to advertise against illegal dumping.
Do we need a motion on that?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll move that. And is there a seconder, please, for that? And to you, Mayor Love, seconded. Any further discussion on this? To you, Mark Wilmer.
Thank you, Chair Bromwich. Just a couple of thoughts on it. I agree with what Gwen has said. The pitch-in was great, and the number of people that really care, it's wonderful to see. You see them all over the place. You see the bags that have been picked up. But equally sad is the number of people who just don't care. And wherever I walk, I find tires. I see stuff that's dumped in, hidden away, so people know they're not supposed to do it. But there's garbage being dropped everywhere. It's not unique to our township. It's the same everywhere. And I think I agree with you with Gwen's report. And I think our option of having staff look after the advertising is a better choice than going with Crime Stoppers. I just think we can tailor our advertising more to our. Just my thoughts on it, because I think we're just dealing with a certain element of people. I would really, in our advertising, stress the enforcement and the fines that could be handed out. I think you have to get the message across that this isn't just a small issue that if you throw a bag of garbage into the brush, it's just a little thing. The amount of garbage collecting is terrible, and we've seen the incident on Carson Lake where there was almost contaminated material going into the lake. So it's a serious problem, and I think we need to deal with it. Dealing it through our media in an effective way is a good first step. I don't know how much else we can do other than finding ways to increase our enforcement, which we really can't do.
Thank you, Mark. Any further comments? To you, Mayor Love.
I'd like to support what Councillor Wilmer has just said. I think as a municipality, our pitch-in week goes for the better part of 3 seasons. We certainly support our volunteers who pick up garbage along the road, making sure they have bags, making sure that our staff are picking up the bags they've filled. And we don't limit it to 1 week in the year. I know Hillary encourages individuals to keep volunteering and helping us because it does help keep Madawaska Valley beautiful. I agree completely that we do need to make it clear that it's not acceptable behavior to be dumping household garbage or business garbage along the sides of the road. It's $1 a bag. Come on, that's not going to break anybody. You use more gas to find a spot to dump the garbage than you would to pay the $1 to properly dispose of the garbage. So if we could identify to the public that if you come across garbage, like household garbage or business garbage, please contact bylaw. If you find a cache of garbage, contact bylaw so that our employee can do the best they can to try to discover who's doing it and to make sure that that the message is made clear to these people that it's inappropriate. If fines are the result of it, that happens. And I know there's limits to what we can fine and how much we can fine. I don't know all the details, but it's important that we do the best we can right now with the tools we've got, because they have worked for us in the past, and we're not at a point where they're not continuing to work. So I don't think we're at a point where we need to make a change. We do want to handle this internally if at all possible. It's super important. So anyways, I do support what Councillor Wilmer said 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda, you have your hand up. Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment. Many years ago, as a municipality, through our public education and awareness program, under our environmental budget, we would donate some funds to the local schools that they could use, for their class trips, and in return, they would have to have an environmental or waste education awareness day. And so they would invite, Ottawa Valley Waste or whoever, and they would educate the youth about the importance of recycling and using garbages and stuff. And I think that might be the key, is to continue. Right now we can't go into the schools. Nobody can go into the schools. But if you keep on the youth as they move up in the years through the school programs, we need to get that message to the youth so that when they grow up, we don't experience some of these problems as well. So I would like to see that return into our budget eventually when everything goes back to normal. Thank you.
That's a great idea. To you, Mayor Love.
I echo what you just said, Chair. Basically, that's a great idea. There's a lot of value for a modest amount of money that would be contributed to that education process, and to possibly having some of our school children assisting us in cleaning up some of this. For example, some of the roadways to and from school. It reinforces that positive message. So perhaps that's something, Hillary, that we could budget to maybe reinstitute that program in 2022, with the hopes that we would actually be able to do the program, run the program, because life will be somewhat back to, I don't want to put normal on it, but you know what I mean. Hopefully we'll be able to get together and do things in 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we could plan on having this subject brought back up when school does go back in the fall and discuss it so that it's on the table. There's a lot of good intention here, but if we don't bring it back on the table, it might just go into the file basket. So anyway, I'd like to call, to you, Sue, before we call.
Sorry, Chair, just wanted
That's
to add that I've made a note to add it to our 2022 budget deliberations.
Perfect. Thank you very, very much. Is there any further questions or discussion on this? I'm wondering, Corey Quaid, I wonder if he might have anything to comment on. He seems to be the guy on the ground looking for culprits. And I know it's a big job for him. He's got so many other fingers in the pie here. I don't know if you want to mention anything, Corey, on this, or
Chair Brownwich, to let you know, if we do catch somebody, it's $200 a bag. And I have caught 4 people so far this year with garbage, and I identified them by leaving labels or other things that have been identifiable inside. So if people have been charged once we do identify them, but like I emphasize, it's $200 a bag plus the HST. So it is a fairly significant fine, and fines have been issued. I have new signs that just came in as of, it's in reverse there, yesterday. So I will have the Public Works put them up in sort of the more high volume areas, and I would go out and check them myself. I was able to get a swearing in one of high volume areas in the township. I haven't been able to find anybody to roll the bag of garbage. I did pick it up and put it in one of the township cans, but it's to identify actually who's doing it. But I have cameras also ordered, so they will be rotating throughout the township once they remind, like trail cameras. I'll move them through the hottest zones too. So hopefully I'll be able to identify somebody through the license plates to be able to catch them that way, get this slowed down. So I know it is a major issue.
wow. You're doing what you can, Corey. I really appreciate all the work you're doing for us and the staff involved. To you, Mark.
Thank you, Chair Bromwich. Corey, I was just wondering about the process. When you do catch somebody and fine them with a bag, what happens then? They've been issued a ticket or something, and who actually collects, and how do we know it has been collected?
We have 2 options. One's a provincial offenses ticket, which is goes to Pembroke. We'll get a percentage of that, or we also have the option through our bylaw to issue a $200 bill to them. It's invoiced upstairs through the Marie. She'll send in a bill with the HST. We track that and see who's every 6 months. I'll check, see who's did it. Now just send a reminder letter. After a year, we can go to collections and send a collections notice to them. That's how we'll get our money back for those fines.
Okay, great. Thank you, Corey.
To you, Mayor Love.
I'm just wondering, is there a way to give this a more positive spin by taking any fine revenue that we gather and reinvesting it in something like what Amanda mentioned, a program for school kids, just in the more positive aspects of what we're trying to promote here, which is that people are responsible for their own litter and that they dispose of it responsibly. So I know it's token amounts of money and it would fluctuate, but it's nice to see that a fine that comes from somebody doing something that we want to discourage is actually then being used to assist to do programming to get people in a better frame of mind and get them helping, to support volunteers. It's token amounts of money, but sometimes it's nice to be able to say to the public, so this, there was fines that were paid, but hey, here's how we use that money. We reinvested in our programming to assist people to better manage their litter, to ensure that that kids are educated on the components of garbage and recycling, all of that. I don't know, Amanda may be wanting to kill me now because it's tracking those few dollars round and back through, but sometimes there's good to those circles, right? It reinforces positively the message.
So I'll put on my calendar to provide a report at year end for any sort of illegal dumping or fines that have been processed through the office, and then we can use that to proceed with future budgets. So we'll try and get that as an annual report.
Thank you. To you, Mayor Love.
And basically my goal is that eventually we'll have no money in fines, and that's the idea, is that if we are recognizing to the public there's a problem, And if there's this much money collected in fines, eventually we hope to have no money in fines and we would be subsidizing the positive program from taxation. But it's just to make sure people understand we want this change in behavior.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this? I just want to mention that with all the hard work everybody's putting into beautify our town, the Horticulture Society, the beautiful plants that are going in, our parks are being pretty well kept up nicely by Hillary and his gang and Mike's gang. And it's a shame to see somebody deface that and spoil it with just a careless act. And I really think that we're doing the best we can. And all the suggestions here are really positive. So emphasizing the fines, I think, is a big deal because when you hit them in the pocket, it hurts bad. So could I call a vote on that, please? All in favor of this? And that's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Okay. Next item here, 6.1.5. It's a report on vessel operations by Gwen. And this is subsequent to our May 4th meeting that we had regarding shoreline owners from Madawaska Shoreline Owners Association came in with some problems speeding boats and erosion of their systems. So Gwen, maybe you could just wrap it up for us here and give us a little bit of information on what you provided.
That's pretty much what my report does, is kind of wrap up what has happened in the past when requests have come forward about us maintaining the waterways and the speed on it. So I'm just proposing again that perhaps we could use our free social media sites and websites to further encourage safer boating and safer practices on the water.
I agree 100%. I think it's self-explanatory what we've got here. The report kind of gives you the background. And I'll have maybe Sue read the recommendation before we get into it, if you wouldn't mind, Sue.
Yes, through the chair, that council and committee accept the vessel operation restriction report as information, and that staff is directed to provide the following advertising based on promotional material provided by the Madawaska Shoreline Owners Association using our social media and website content.
I also move that. If I could have a seconder, please. Mark Wilmer seconded. Any discussion on this? To you, Mark, first. I'll get to you next, Mayor Love.
Thank you, Chair Bromwich. I just had one, and it was something I thought was interesting that I wasn't aware of, and I think it's something that we might want to focus on too. And that's really the last paragraph above the financial impacts. And because I know we have areas that are problems, but we have erosion occurring everywhere on our lakes. And a lot of it is due to the high speed of the boat. I was not aware of the 10-kilometer-an-hour speed limit within 30 meters of shore anywhere on any lake. And I think that's something that a lot of people probably are not aware of. And if I'm reading that correctly. And I think that's an important point when it comes to the erosion on all our shorelines, because the waves do travel, and it doesn't matter how wide the lake is where you are. If you're in that close, you shouldn't be going fast.
Yeah, that's wow. How do you control people out in the middle of a lake when there's 10 kilometer an hour and 30 meters from the shore? You've got a good point there, Mark. And I think we emphasize the fact that there is stiff fines for people. Emphasizing the fines might deter them or make them think. Informing them, like you say, most boaters probably don't even realize there's a law like this out there. So I think if we can bring that on the social media page and advise people on it, it might deter a few boaters. Any further? Oh, to you, Mayor Love. I'm sorry you had your hand up there.
Thank you, Chair. I absolutely concur with what you just said about a lot of people may not even be aware that there is a rule in place. And so promoting that rule covers all our waterways. I know Council did receive the Local Authorities Guide Vessel Operation Restriction Regulations. It was supposed to be attached, but I don't know, miscommunication on my part. Sorry about that. Anyways, we did send it to you, and I'd like everyone to just have a look through the process. It is very complicated. there are many steps to a process of putting a regulation in place. And again, I would reiterate that we don't want to just slap up signs that can't be enforced. So council reviewing that, I think, is important. And one of the other factors we may want to consider, because the municipality will be responsible for enforcement under those VORR, we may want to have a discussion with our OPP, our local OPP sergeant, to just see what they are seeing on the water, what sort of enforcement is currently going on. I don't even know if it's something that is part of our OPP bill or not. Certainly if we request additional enforcement, it will be. It'll be documented and we will be charged for it. But I'd like to know what they're doing right now, because they do have a boat and they are out there in the summer. Are they having a lot of issues with alcohol? Are they having a lot of issues with speed? Are they having a lot of issues with unsafe boating practices, or are they not? I think it would be nice to hear from the OPP if Sergeant DeSeverio would be willing to come and speak to council, maybe even in the fall once the summer season has progressed through, and he may have some generalized information he could report to us about what the OPP is seeing and whether or not they're seeing a problem in terms of speeding on the Madawaska River, certainly. I don't know what council thinks about that idea, but I think it could be a good starting point to ascertaining whether or not we do have a problem, a significant enough problem that we would be investing the kind of time and money that it's going to take to consider doing any additional regulations. Thank you.
To you, Mark.
Thank you, Chair Bromwich. Yeah, I would be very interested in that. As living on a lake, I do see their boats out here quite often. But I'd be interested in knowing what they do. Do they have the same sort of blitzes, like seat belts with cars and things like this? Are they focusing on one thing? Are they looking for specific things one week, perhaps something different the next week? So yeah, I'd be interested in sort of how they patrol the lake and really what they look the lakes and what they are actually looking for, or if they have any specific focuses over the summer. So I think it's a great idea.
I might mention here, this discussion took place years ago, and I took this as a chair of EPAC to the police and asked them that very same question, that can they provide us some answers as to what they do when they patrol the lakes, what the actions they're taking, because speeding boats along the river it's against the law. The only answer I got back was a general statement from the police that we patrol the lakes on a regular basis. That was it. We will not specify what we do, itemize what we do, and when we do it. This was their attitude then. I don't know what it would be now. I may be open for discussion if we could have a representative from the OPP, the community coordinator from the OPP would be good to come in and discuss it with us. There's 5 townships involved in CPAC, and it's not just here that they patrol all the other townships also. So you're going to get a general view of what's going on around the area, and maybe we can arrange have the OPP sit in a meeting with us, whether Zoom or if we ever get back in person. I don't know if we will or not, but that would be my suggestion. Update the information the OPP can give us. So you're right, Mark. That's a good idea. Any further discussion on this? To you, Sue?
I'd like to suggest that I know Gwen has been talking to the sergeant in preparation of this report, that we reach out to them and specifically identify the areas of concern that council would like to be briefed on, that we ask them to track it for the summer and see where there's the most non-compliance, and that we possibly invite them to the table. We were proposing to ask them to be a delegation in August, but possibly September might be a better date at the council and committee meeting. And maybe at that point you could ask them those questions, and we would know then if we have to organize a different campaign, and or if we'd have some more information as well for the group that is overseeing, that has brought this forward to council.
Thank you, Sue. Well done. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. If we can keep it on the table, don't forget about it. To you, Mayor Love.
Yeah, I think the thing, Chair, is that we have to recognize that at the moment the OPP is our enforcement arm for any municipal regulations that there are on the water. And it's not generally something that municipalities are engaged in, but we do have one small section of river with a regulation on it. As to whether or not council would want to expand that, the OPP may not have the capacity to be a specific enforcement authority for this municipality. I think that's another question that we do need to ask them or speak to them about in general, what their capacities are. It would be important for us to know then if this was not going to be the enforcement authority that could actually enforce further regulations. That's certainly a large factor in council's decision as to whether or not we want to proceed with signage and extending the zone that currently exists to a much longer zone along the river, because the zone that currently exists is not the full length of the Madawaska from Kaministkeg through to down to Combermere. So yeah, I just think it's important that we have a chat with them, and it's a generalized chat. We don't want any specifics. We just, no details about who did what, where, or when. We purely want to know generally what are you seeing, and generally what are your capacities, and generally what would be your concerns in terms of any further enforcement possibilities, because that may put it back onto the municipality, and now we're talking a whole different matter. Because we don't currently have any enforcement capacity on the water other than the OPP. Thank you.
To you, Sue.
Just a comment before we leave the subject. I wanted to confirm for council that many of our departments have to deal, weekly or monthly with the OPP, and we have had nothing but great two-way communication. They're very prompt. They've been very helpful. So I'm not sure maybe whatever issues in the past was not coming through to CPAC. As staff through all of our departments, I can say that we've appreciated the two-way correspondence and communication that we've had.
Cool. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call a vote. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Good discussion, guys. This next item here, 6.1.6, I think it's a little bit of a book here, from Hillary on the Phragmites resolution support township of the archipelago. A lot of reading here. I haven't noticed any of these particular weeds or vile things in our township, but maybe you can just give us a brief uptake on this, Hillary, if you wouldn't mind.
This was forward from the regular meeting. We didn't have enough information. We just had a resolution before us. So I kind of did some digging. And I firmly believe there's no harm in supporting archipelago. I think I'm saying that right. They're looking for assistance. And I believe that if they get assistance, so be it. It'll help them. And it'll help us possibly if they can curb the Phragmites in their turf. So this is only a good thing. We're supporting, I believe, a worthy cause. Keep it out of there so it doesn't come here. I read it twice, that resolution, and I feel there's no harm in supporting this.
I think you're right on this issue. We also had an invasive species come through town a few years back, and we were afraid we were going to get them in our ditches, and it basically would just destroy the whole biosystem of the waterways, because people were transporting the seeds. The wind was blowing seeds in. There was other townships with remedies on this, and information out there was to do not pull this weed out of the ground because it's a rhizome system. What you had to do is get it to the flowering stage, cut the top off, bag it, and then burn the seeds so they wouldn't spread. I would be into supporting this township of Archipelago, and maybe Mayor Love has something, and Mark, I'll get to you in a minute. Mayor Love.
Okay, thank you, Chair. My only concern is that the Township of Archipelago requests all levels of government to consider funding support to aid the Township of the Archipelago. Well, we are a level of government, and I'm sorry, we have our own problems. We do have noxious weeds. We do have invasive species. So from that perspective, it's a pretty big request. I don't know whether that was their intention, but we are a level of government. So, I mean, if they specifically are looking for support from the federal and provincial governments, that's a different matter. But certainly, we have enough problems of our own. We don't want to be contributing to some pool of funding that's going in other areas to deal with noxious weeds and invasive species, because we have them here, as you mentioned, Chair Bromwich, and we do have to deal with them along our roadways. So I don't know whether this is a resolution that we support per se at this point in time. The concept is good. It might be better that to be requesting that the province and the federal government be taking care of any invasive species and noxious weeds along their roadways and on their properties, because that is a problem in a lot of parts of Ontario, where you do have provincial highways with invasive species going, growing and expanding along the highway, and the province isn't necessarily looking after that problem. So I guess I'm just a little bit concerned with the wording from that perspective, that they have requested all levels of government. And if council wanted to specify federal and provincial, okay, just I think we need to be left out of that, because we do have to deal with our own.
I must apologize. I didn't realize it'd gone that far as to ask us for funding on this. We don't have enough money to take care of our own business here. I agree too. The provincial and federal government should kick in here, and maybe we can support that motion, but we can't support any kind of financial support for this. To you, Mark, maybe you've got something to add here.
Thank you, Chair Bromwich. Yeah, no, I agree with the wording change or changing it, but I generally, after thinking about this one, I support the concept, and I think it's important that other communities support it, because this is a community that is obviously struggling with this invasive species. We don't have it here yet, but these things spread very, very quickly. So if you can nip it in the bud in the area, or try to, where it's thriving, that's the best way to handle it. It's almost too late when it gets right across the province. We have enough invasive species already in our waters, in our ditches, all along, in our highways. So we don't want another one here. And this one doesn't look particularly inviting to me anyway. So I think it is good to support it. And I think it's a good thing to support it. But I also, I agree with Mayor Love that we're not going to fund anything that way. We need to, I think the wording needs to change.
Thank you. To you, Mayor Love.
I'm wondering if what we could do is provide a letter of support with the qualifier that explaining that we support the federal and provincial governments providing funding to assist with invasive species. So we're a little more general in that, in that support, because this is not the only place that has phragmites. If you travel down to Belleville, you'll see them in the ditches. Like I said, a lot of these invasive species are along provincial highways. So even if the province wasn't prepared to fund individual municipalities, it would probably be very helpful if the province was prepared to fund cleaning up these invasive species along provincial highways, or at least getting a start on it. Because if you've got vast stretches of road where they're running rampant in the ditches, poor little municipalities don't stand a chance against this kind of invasion, right? There are places where it can spread freely. So perhaps a letter of support where we clarify that we support this being a provincial and federal situation where funding would need to be applied. And we also support the province and the federal government tackling invasive species such as these on their roadways and on their properties. Could we support it in that kind of roundabout way that says, yes, we want to see something happen to address this problem, but without actually just giving a tick of, yes, we agree with what we have in front of us?
We don't really need a motion, do we, Sue? That would be more or less direction to staff. We could draft up maybe a letter to support, such as Mayor Love just mentioned.
I would recommend that we that you pass a resolution that a letter of support from the Township of Archipelago is considered, with the revision that funding requests be directed to the provincial and federal government levels as opposed to all levels of government.
I also move that motion, if I could get a seconder for it. Is that you, Mark? Seconded. Any further discussion on that? And you too, Mayor Love, yes?
I'm wondering if we could include in it that the provincial and federal governments, I don't know if they have a plan, but that they develop a plan if they don't have a plan to begin to address invasive species on their properties and roadways. Because like I say, if they're not in to help with the problem, municipalities aren't going to win the battle. I would like that put back to them as well, so that we're all taking responsibility. Thank you.
So could you amend that motion then, Sue? Or I don't know if mention that. Yes, Sue.
I can just add, ensure that the minutes include what the letter of resolution, that the letter of
Okay.
resolution include that.
Okay.
The letter of
I'll-
support, sorry, that the letter of
I'll-
support include that.
I'll agree with that. And Mark, you can agree with that addition. Any further discussion on this? All in favor? All in favor, Dave? Yes, sir. Here we go. That motion's been approved. I just want to mention, when I was active in the last invasion of this red stuff that came through the ditches here, and I contacted the Ontario government, and they said, directed me to the M&R. And the M&R were working on a solution, and they were trying to introduce a ladybug into the system that would chew these things up. So I'm sure if we could find the right department in the government of Ontario that's working on it and get some information on it, I don't think they're letting this thing go. To you, Amanda?
So I just wanted to comment. I know that the County of Renfrew, we have them as our official weed inspector, and I wonder if they provide us any sort of updates or sort of policies or how they are working with the provincial government, because I guess these types of things fall to the county level, I presume. Are they lobbying the provincial governments for a little help? Because we do have the invasive species here. We do have phragmites in our community, as Gwen has pointed out in the chat. So I think it's important that we involve the county on some of these topics as well, or reach out to them for some of their leadership on this.
Good point, Amanda. To you, Mayor Love.
Yes, absolutely. I think we could send a letter. The county does have a noxious weed and invasive species plan, I believe it is. I know it's noxious weeds for certain. And there's approaches, and I know our operations manager has worked with the county in terms of understanding how to address when you do come across a patch of something that you don't want to spread through your ordinary shouldering and those sorts of things. There's processes that that Public Works can put in place to ensure you're not spreading something that is invasive or noxious from one point to another across the municipality through the use of your equipment and things like that. So maybe we could contact the county, and it is a fairly significant plan. I know I have read it a few times. It is regularly updated, and perhaps they could give us an update on any lobbying that the department is doing with the province and the feds in order to get this problem addressed on a broader scale.
To you, Sue.
I think as well, a picture is 1,000 words. It is a very pretty plant, and maybe, as we do our township tidbits or on our website or Facebook, we could say, are you aware this is a noxious plant, and possibly, you know, let us know where they're found and we can forward that to the county.
Cool. You take care of that, Hillary.
Will
Just
do.
kidding. Thanks a lot. Any further discussion on that? We can move along to 6.1.7 if that's the case. We have a grader repair. Yikes. Little ouch here, but you can talk about it, Hillary, if you want to give us a little bit of a background.
So the Volvo, Mike might assist me here. It has quite a few hours on it. It's what year is that thing? See, I don't even know the year. 207. It has a lot of years on it, and the transmission finally went. And it's there's two options: a reman or in frame build. They call them by the Strongco. So it's a expensive piece of equipment, and we can exceed its life expectancy. The life cycle is 2022, and we're slating not this one to be replaced in 2022, the older one. We have a much older one yet. So that's our goal, increase this life cycle and get rid of the 2000, what's the Pink Panther, Mike?
93, I believe, isn't it?
93. Yeah, so due diligence, and I don't know, do you know what the hours offhand on the Volvo?
I don't know, Hillary. I would meant to look, but by the time I thought of doing this for the report, the machine was already gone for repairs. So I don't know off the top of my head the actual hours.
And this is an expensive piece of equipment. It serves us well. So this is a valuable asset that we're keeping in the circuit for long.
What about the Pink Panther? That thing never stops. It doesn't know
It's
us
going.
a cent.
It's tired, Carl.
Yeah, but it's still moving. It's like the Energizer bunny.
Just barely. Yeah.
It doesn't owe us a cent, does it?
It doesn't. But it's,
what would you get out that when you declare it surplus? Scrap?
Yeah, or put you might get a few dollars for it. Like if somebody's looking for a bush grader or something like that.
It's a shame we couldn't get another one like that. Anyway, I don't think we have much option here, guys. This is like it's in for repair. So can you read that recommendation if you wouldn't mind, Sue, and then we can discuss it if we need to.
Sorry, trying to find the mute button.
Okay.
That council approved the quote from Strongco at a cost of $58,246.96 for a rebuild transmission for unit number 53 Volvo grader, and that'd be expensed from the equipment capital reserve.
I'll so move that. If I could get a seconder for it, please. Mark Wilmer, seconded. Discussion on that. Mayor Love and Mark, I'll get to you next.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I just wondered how many additional years we anticipate getting out of this grader, since it was obviously planned to be replaced at some point. When are we thinking? Are we hoping to get another 5 years out of it, or 10, or?
Well, I'm predicting that it's going to be Pink Panther number 2. So that's our goal. You know, that's what we did with the Pink Panther. We rebuilt it. We can't get away with one grader, unfortunately. We're very large. So we need 1.5. I call them 1.5, an older one and a fairly new one. So that's our goal. I predict 10 years there. We keep rebuilding it until it turns into a 1998 model.
So Hillary, is it in basically reasonable shape other than obviously the transmission issue? I know we did spend about $37,000 on it last year. I don't know, I can't remember what that was for, but we did spend a fair amount of money maintaining it last year. So is it good now, basically, we hope?
It is. It's with that piece of equipment, it's very expensive for maintenance, like blades and it is a large piece of equipment, and they are costly to buy. So I believe it's worthy of this.
Okay.
No.
Is it being called the yellow banana when we're finished? This the Pink Panther? We don't have a nickname for it yet, do we?
No.
Any further discussion on this? Mark, you're okay? I'll call the vote on that. All in favor then? And that's carried. Thank you very much, Hillary. It's a big ouch, but whatever. It has to be done. We have a report here, our budget to actual report, 6.1.8. Just a report showing year-to-date variances. Is there any questions on this report? Everybody received this in their mail. I don't have any question on it. Is there any items in here that were questionable that you noticed? Because we'll just accept this as information. Is that the case? Anybody? Nobody? We just accept this as information and sue, I guess. Okay, 6.1. Wait a minute here. What have I? Find my paperwork. 6.2.1 is a letter from Wendy Wolak, acting president of Carson, Trout, Lapine, and Green and Lakes. Restop illegal dumping. And it's dated May the 2nd. Self-explanatory. She's urging the mayor, Mayor Love, and councilors to please reconsider our position, join force with this campaign. Stop illegal dumping. We're trying. We're doing our best. I think we've addressed that previously in that other item. And is there possibly a chance we could just reply to Wendy and say that we've addressed this and we are looking for options here? I'm just asking for information. If we can just accept this as information. Excuse me. Any discussion on it? I'll just follow that then. Thank you. 6.2.2. This is correspondence from. Okay, here we go. 6.2. Be with me first. Bear with me here, please. Wouldn't mind. Community request. Yeah, we requested that the Madawaska Shoreline Owners Association provide some thoughts and potential messaging for the various channels of communication on boat launches. I think once again we've addressed this issue with the waterways discussion we had, so we can accept this as information also. Does everybody agree with that? I don't think we have to go any further with that one. And 6.3.1 is unfinished business. And I think we've discussed this issue, so we can just take this as information. That was the resolution from Township of Archipelago, and we've addressed that issue. So any discussion on that? If not, I've finished my presentation. I'll turn this back over to Mayor Love.
Thank you,
very
Chair.
much.
All right. Sue, I think you sent me a text. Is there a section of the meeting you'd prefer to do before we break for lunch due to staff that are engaged in it?
Yes, I was going to ask. I've been texting back and forth with the facilities manager and the facilities coordinator. So they have been on standby for their portion of the report, and they are available if we wanted to do those two sections of recreation so that they may partake in case there are any questions.
Okay, what about the, okay, I guess they're not involved in the municipal office generator. So I guess with the indulgence of the chair of recreation, because we would be putting him on the spot sooner, would council concur that we could do the recreation component and maybe those two items first, if you wouldn't mind, Chair Wilmer? Sue?
Actually, Mayor Love, so I would call them in now because the municipal office generator and the one report from the PJY generator kind of go hand in hand. So I could call them to be on standby for this portion of the meeting to make sure that they're available. And then after 7.1.2, possibly then we could
go to recreation at that point?
For those reports, if that would be great.
Okay, yes, because we can do fire and protection after recreation. We don't have to do it where it's currently sitting on the agenda. Okay, so I guess then what I'm asking is council okay if we do operations, water, wastewater, and facilities, followed by recreation and community development? All right, any concerns with that? We'll do that so that we've addressed any issues with our staff that we are holding to our meeting. Okay, so I will then turn it over to Chair Schulis to do water, wastewater, and facilities.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 7.11 municipal report. This is under facilities. It's something that we've been talking about for a long time, but a new generator. So Hillary, our operations manager, you're bringing this report in, and tell us about this good deal we got on this machine.
Okay, I had to rebuild this file from a while back to find all the information. It was a challenging report and very frustrating. After I seen how much they wanted for the repairs, and then we engaged TSA, and they find more repairs requested. I thought, okay, this is only getting worse. It's not getting any better. Usually it gets better in life, but this one didn't. So the original one we couldn't get fuel for the fuel delivery in early or late 2020. So GAL was engaged. They wanted 26,000 to fix the fuel. So then after the meeting, additional information, we engaged TSA, and they find more stuff wrong with it. After that, I kind of went to the drawing board. I'm thinking it's in excess of 30,000. Because now the louvers have to be repaired, and this is all specific work, and only certain agencies can do this work, and it's GAL out of Ottawa. So I'm thinking, okay, this is only getting worse. So then I get a quote for a propane one, quieter, more efficient, everything better, and it comes in at 17,000. So lo and behold, this is before you. 17,000. We got to get rid of that dinosaur, that aged generator, that fuel generator. It's from 2003 to 2004. I can't make this work. We got to do something here, and this is the answer that I found. Instead of spending in excess of 30,000, I find a propane generator, half the size, quieter, efficient, and you're dealing with propane. Any questions?
Yeah, you know what? I have to totally agree with you. Sometimes, you can put money into something that is, well, even outdated as far as, environment goes and, efficiency and all this stuff. And I think this is a great move. Any discussion from council on this here? I don't see any.
None here, no.
Don't see Mark at all. No, I don't see anyone have any questions. So I think if we could have Madam CEO, read the recommendation, and then we'll go from there.
Through the chair, that the replacement of the diesel generator at the Township Municipal Office in the amount of $17,977 plus HST is purchased from Woke Electric, quotation number 210428, MVT Township, for the 20 kilowatt propane unit, and that these funds are to be withdrawn from the general admin building renovation / replacement reserve.
Okay, thank you. I'll move it. I need a seconder. Madam Mayor makes a second on that. So do we have any other discussion on this matter? I don't see any. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, next one is 7.1.2. That's the budget to action report. That's on the facility and water and wastewater, May 27, 2021. I don't see any problem. I don't know if Amanda wants to speak on anything here, but as council members have anything to add to this? Nope, I do not see. So basically the recommendation is that we're receiving this as information. So We don't have any correspondence or information. Is there any unfinished business? I don't see anything written down here. I don't think there is any. Is there, Madam CEO? No.
No, there
Okay.
isn't. I was just checking to see if Ashley was in the meeting, but we didn't have any correspondence from Aqua.
Okay. All right. My committee report is finished. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And now we'll go to Recreation and Community Development Committee, and I'll turn it over to Chair Wilmer.
Thank you very much, Mayor Love. Okay, we'll start with item number 1 is a recommendation regarding the grant update. And I guess if we have Karen available, she should be in on this one. Great. So Stephanie, I don't know whether you have, if you want to go through it.
Sorry, Mark, did you skip 9.1.1?
Oh, sorry. Yes. See, messing this agenda up is, yeah. Okay, 9.1.1, which is just is a recreation update. So we'll start with that. And Stephanie, if you wouldn't mind letting us know about that, would be appreciated.
Sure. So I just wanted to go through so everybody had an idea of where we are at with the roadmap to reopen for Ontario. It's a lot of information and it's still kind of being developed. I've reached out to the health unit on a couple topics and they don't have any further information than what was provided in the roadmap. So I did my best to kind of give council an update on what the plans are so far and what we're doing as it stands right now in each individual area. So the visitor center, there's a separate craft cabin report, the public washrooms which are open and then which will be opening, including the tennis courts and the softball fields, baseball fields. As far as I know, the groups are still planning on starting for the week of July 5th. Fingers crossed we get into step 2 by July 5th, and that can happen. And then I also wanted to make council aware there was a request for the Cumbermere Community Center parking lot by the Madawaska Valley Hospice, and they will be using the parking lot just as a pickup drop-off area for their butterfly campaign this summer. And I haven't gotten any additional information from Drive Test. They're hoping to update us by the end of this week with a little bit more of information. The health unit has determined that they believe we can go ahead and let them open as long as the guidelines are able to align. And then the flowers, Canada Day and the flowers, it's all coming very quickly. The BIA planters are expected to arrive in the first 2 weeks of June, and staff are ready to take that process of watering on. Additional programming for the sensational sandcastle competition. That is coming very shortly as well. It's going to be introduced in the month of June for Recreation Month. And it's another collaborative effort through the rural working groups. And the sandcastle competition will be introduced similar to Snowdown. So they'll be provided with prizes and winners from each municipality. And that will be coming out very shortly. So because there's no meeting between now and August, I just wanted to give an overview of what the programming is for the summer as well. And with the Jumpstart funding, which I found out the end of last week, we were successful again in a racket program for Madawaska Valley Township. So we will be receiving portable pickleball nets that we can use at the arena, as well as some rackets, some tennis court balls and rackets, which can be used at the tennis courts, as well as badminton rackets and birdies and nets, which can be used again at Lakeshore Park or in Cumbermere. We're going to be having that equipment run with a program to introduce it to the community. And then once everybody's aware that it's there, it'll be available as a lending hub. And I'm hopeful that pickleball will be able to run at the Paul J. Yakabuski Community Center indoors in the summer times from now until we're able to get better use of that equipment. And then the swim program, it won't be able to be opened until step 2 according to the guidelines. So we're hoping that the registration will be opened shortly. I'm hoping within the next week or 2 we open up registration, but putting out a registration for a program like swim makes it very difficult. I'd like to see the June 14th deadline pass and make sure we're into that program before we put out the registration. So. And I did attach the reopening steps so council can have a good picture as to what it is. Not only do we have to meet the date deadlines, the vaccination rates have to increase in order to move from one step to the next. So fingers crossed everybody gets their vaccination and we can go from one step to the next in this reopening plan.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. It's a great report. It's I guess, very hard to plan anything for summer when we've got so many things moving around. As you say, we have to meet vaccination deadlines and everything is sort of flexible these days. So I think what you've put together is it's a good synopsis of where we're at, and allows us to go through or do whatever we are able to once we get to those times. So this report is for information. I'm not sure, are there any comments? Sue?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add that as it pertains to the municipal office, we will remain closed with appointments until June 14th. As the reopening plan identifies that during step 2 is when limited indoor services with small number of people wearing face coverings will be worn still, is when that resumes. So as it stands today, unless something else changes, we would be planning to reopen during stage 2.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Love, you have a question?
Not a question, just I want to commend our staff for their flexibility, their swift action, their interpretive acumen as the opening and closing criterion change, and we go from one system through a color system through now that you're trying to ascertain, have we got enough vaccinations done plus some other math calculation. This has been really complicated for recreational staff, and so much of what Stephanie does hinges on whether or not it can happen based on all these different calculations. And so, our recreational staff have been fantastic. They've been creative. They've come up with new things that they're trying to be able to keep people separate but have them engaged. And the sandcastle idea is a great idea. And thank you. I just want to really thank you guys, because this has been a tough year. And you've done a fantastic job. So keep up the good work, and I look forward to, it's almost like interpretive dance, Stephanie. How do I interpret this now, and what am I opening or closing? But I know you're up to the task, and I do appreciate everything that you've done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Love. All right, if there are no other questions, we'll move on to 9.12, which is grant update. And in addition to Stephanie working on those programs, she's also been working on several grants. And I'll let Stephanie start on this one. We do have Karen here because we did have a library board meeting yesterday to fill in that one blank that is missing from the recommendation. And I think we had a good board meeting. So Stephanie, if you'd like to start.
Sure. So I had sent my report to Karen at the library just so she had an idea of what was going to be in this grant update prior to your meeting yesterday. We did meet as a group to discuss some of the options for this grant application for the Green and Inclusive Community Grant through Infrastructure Canada. And based on the grant guidelines, as was mentioned previously, it's an 80% funding retrofit or a 60% funding for a new build. So council and staff met along with the library board, and the best way to move forward was to be able to give them direction as to what the best location that we see for their either retrofit or new facility. So as staff, we came up with two different options, which were attached in this council report for you. One recommendation was the area behind the Paul J. Yakabuski Community Center salt shed. So when you drive in the parking lot, it's immediately to your left alongside the generator that's there. The other location is obviously the parking lot next door to this building here in the municipal office. Again, the pictures that are attached are approximate, not to be taken as the definite location, but just to give you a general consensus of what the areas we were looking at were. So we met as a group to discuss some of the details. It was decided that the Green Communities Grant could have two applications. The one that we saw first was obviously the Paul J. Yakabuski Community Center rehabilitation, in which that grant would fund up to 80% for coverage based on the requirements for green, if we could fall within those requirements. So we're working on that right now. In addition to that application, we wanted to be able to see what the library would be interested in doing. And with Karen's help, it was taken to their meeting. So I'll let Karen discuss what happened at her meeting. And then maybe I'll jump back after and just go over what it is that we're looking at right now. So Karen, did you want to give us an update?
Sure. So the board looked at the two sites that are possibilities for a new build, because without a building site, we really can't go ahead with the grant. So these two sites were presented, the one Stephanie mentioned, and the board decided to go with the arena site, if that's possible.
Okay. All right. So the other item on this report, just as a brief summary, I mentioned it in the last report too, but was the Racket 2021. I gave a bit of a direction in that as well. So the plans for that grant, separate from this discussion, was just that we would be starting that programming very shortly. So I just didn't want to miss that part in this report. To further on what Karen had mentioned, I think we would like to move forward with an application if we can get the assistance together. I've sent Karen the questions that are in that grant, so she has a better idea of what it is that it'll be needed to apply. And then we're going to go from there. So what I'm assuming will work with what the library has agreed with. And I wanted to make sure that council was aware of this application. So if there is a consensus that we could create a Madawaska Valley Community Hub at the location of the arena, at the location at the arena, which down the road in a second step could potentially include the municipal office. If we've outgrown this building here, it would make sense to combine all the buildings at the one location. And this could be something that we see down the road, and that was discussed at the meeting as well. So I'm not sure if council has any input into that or questions. Karen is here, she can answer questions as well.
I'd just like to make a few comments, Stephanie, because I was involved in all the meetings, so I've sort of seen what's going on. And first of all, this grant, we're fortunate in that you can submit as many applications as you want. So I think here we've chosen two really good projects. They both fall under different streams. The first one is a renovation, which is funded up to 80%, and that's the arena. And that's a project that we should have pretty much, as they call, shovel ready. We've done the studies, et cetera, et cetera. The only thing I'm looking at is this grant is purposely called green and inclusive community buildings. And I think it's going to be very important to emphasize those features in our grant application. So, there will have to be some tweaking done with the information we have and sort of perhaps emphasize some areas more than we have for other applications. So that one's well underway. The library board, with this applicant, they have been doing work and have had a strategic facility group working, developing plans. They've sort of blocked out space requirements, sort of looked at sort of what their square footage will be. They were, though, in need of a site, and because they do have an architect who's willing to do some rough sketching, and then we would have a better idea of what the cost will be. So I think we have two projects. They're at different stages, but another good thing about this grant is that there's not one or two or three intakes. It sort of rolls out until the money's gone. The sooner you get your application in, the better, but there will be money still available after the first applications come in. So I think they're both two good projects, and I think they're both well underway, and I'm very hopeful that we can be successful in both of these applications. And Karen, do you want to add any more about where we are as far as, or where the library board is as far as sort of preparedness, or what stage the board is at? Because I know it's not as far along as the arena, but a fair amount of work has been done.
Yeah, we're not as far along as the arena is, but this new building has been identified since I've been here. So that we've just finished our second strategic plan since I've been here. And again, the need for space for different reasons has come up. So what the board has a small committee, and what we've been doing is, as Mark said, the space requirements. So we have an architect that we're working with. He's volunteering his time to help us and guide us through that. We also have somebody with a lot of grant experience, business experience, who we've met with a couple of times, and he's helping us with the funding aspect, how to run a capital campaign, how to access those grants that we're going to need to access. So we've been putting together all those building blocks, so everything's will fall into place. But this grant is a really good opportunity, perhaps when the money is rolling out, and all of our work is starting to pull together to try and get in on this at this point. So I think that's but they have been meeting consistently, even during COVID and shutdowns and all of that sort of thing. But pulling in the expertise we need is what we've been doing.
Okay. Thank you, Karen. My last point on it is going back to the first application, being the Yakubuski Community Center. This grant is exactly what we needed. So we need to really make sure our application is top notch, and we need to get it. It does specifically say that applications that are received early will be given higher priority. So I think we need to, we have to do a good job, and it's our chance to get 80% funding for that arena. And I think it's one we've got to put our best foot forward on. So those are my comments. Any comments from council? Mayor Love.
Thank you, Chair. I'm curious as to what the square footage is that the library requires for a new library. Because I'm a bit confused by the drawings I got. It looks like I don't know if this includes parking space, 12,000 square feet. I just want to know what's the space requirement, and what does that space encompass?
So so that space that you're seeing mapped out, I think, is sort of available working space. Am I right, Stephanie? That's not the dimensions of a new build. Right now we have, the library is on 2 floors, and the total square footage is 3,500 square feet. And we're looking at a minimum of 8,000 square feet in a new build. So that would encompass, what we have to bear in mind, that encompasses more shared space. So that inclusive part of it, the meeting space, the programming space, that sort of thing. And, down the road, should a municipal building be attached to it, that would be where some shared space comes in. So
Okay, thank you, Karen. I think that, so for the library itself, you need 8,000. I guess that's what I'm trying to ascertain, because obviously where the building is put affects whether or not the space can be shared. And so much of any meeting space the municipality as an organization needs could be shared easily with library patrons. So rather than having two sets of meeting spaces, having one set we share makes sense, which is why it does make sense that either the library is, if we're not leaving the current municipal office, either the library is there, or that both are together somewhere else. That was just my thought in terms of space, because the more space that we have to heat or cool and look after and clean, we want to make sure we're getting good bang for each one of those spaces. So have you included a bit of meeting space in the 8,000, or is that literally your space you need for books? And I recognize it needs to be on one floor.
No, that's not exclusively for books. That would be, you know, if we're looking at expanding the washroom facilities, the bathroom, the meeting space, program space, that kind of thing. So that includes shared space.
Okay. Is there any chance that you could let council know roughly how much meeting and other I'll call it flex space that could be shared, is a part of that 8,000 square feet at some point? Not today, not asking you to, to put your finger on it right now, but it would be nice to know what is the potential to share space.
Yeah, so the architect that we're working with, he's pulling together some drawings. They're not going to be architectural drawings. He's not the architect we're hiring necessarily. It's just someone with a lot of experience in commercial builds. So when we have that, one of the things he talked about was, you know, designing a building that's going to meet our needs for 40 years, and then what to do after the 40 years. Looking at cost effectiveness. Although things are green, it doesn't have to be solar panels. There are many other things we can do. So yeah, when he has those drawings, we could certainly share them with you so we all have a better idea of what's going on. And those, we just met with him about a week ago, so that he's been emailing me lots of questions about space requirements and what we're doing. So we should have those in a couple of weeks, and I can certainly pass those on.
Okay. All right. I think one of the biggest challenges is, as I say, that it only makes sense to have the municipal office and the library able to share meeting space. And if we're looking at the possibility of therefore doing a rebuild or a new build of a municipal office and library, obviously we'd want the mechanical feature, you know, and I'm no expert on this, but the mechanical components of the building to be working to cover the larger amount of space we would need to incorporate the two services in one building, plus to be as efficient and effective as modern technology can make it. There's no point in us building a building that it costs us more to operate than it need be for a smaller investment up front of additional insulation or slightly better services. So I guess I see this as the beginning steps on this project, as opposed to the arena where we're in the last year of we're very much in the home stretch and hoping for money for that project. But I would hope that the library board would want to work closely with municipal staff in order to ensure that if we're moving forward with a new build, that we're doing so in a way that's going to get the best bang for our buck, both, as I said, in terms of shared space, but also in terms of operating costs, because that's going to be the costs we face going forward as the major funding entity for the library. It ends up being a municipal cost. So
if I could just comment, I could just comment on that. I think there's a couple of things. Number one, right now, I think those are all good points, and I think we need to look at all of that. And in our meeting with our Green and Inclusive Community Group, which included staff members, including Hillary, Stephanie, Sue, Councillor Bromwich, myself, and I'm sure there were a couple of other people, and Karen. You know, we did talk about the big picture too. There's a big piece of property there, you know, including the ball fields, everything else, and you know, we have to look at that. And so when we're doing these, there's sort of two goals here. One, we need a site for the library, and we need it now so we can apply for a grant. But secondly, we need to develop a long-term vision for that whole property, how things are going to work together. And I think as the library develops their program needs and their facility, it's important to keep in mind the big picture and the fact that you're right. We need to plan the mechanical sources, so things like this, so that they can handle an add-on or a municipal building added on or whatever we decide, but everything's got to be kept fairly flexible. All I'm saying really is that these sort of things are being thought about, and I know we had a lot of cooperation from the operations department. Hillary, you know, was able to solve, you know, several sort of small logistic problems as we were meeting, and so I think it's a good site. But I think we need to keep in mind what it could be down the road. Councillor Bromwich.
Thank you, Mark. During our meeting, I mentioned this, and I'll mention it again. This is exciting. Start thinking about a new concept here. Hastings Highlands in Maynooth has exactly what you're talking about. Shared premises, municipal hall, beside it, library, meeting space, workshop, rooms for IT development, students being able to take online courses. Back of their municipal hall is a gymnasium with modular designs to convert that into a massive hall for entertainment purposes. Rollout stage with a complete kitchen that moves modular, and it's exciting. When I saw that place, I thought, this is what we need here in Madawaska Valley. And I think that's where we're going with this. And Mayor Love brought this up. We have to have one complete power system to power the whole unit, both units, and all our concepts here. So it's exciting. We're thinking of the future, and this is quite plausible that we might be able to see something happening in our term here, at least grant-wise. So thanks to everybody for thinking bigger than just a small little portion here. Thank you, Karen, for all your work so far. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Mayor Love?
Yeah, I think that that is the challenge, that we are thinking a lot bigger. So recognize that you know, 2 members of council have been engaged in these discussions in more detail. Some of us have not been. So I'm just sort of giving you my initial impressions, trying to understand what it is we're looking at. I agree completely. The question of how the site, if we're looking at the arena site, how it's going to be used is critically important, because we're also looking at putting a sand dome on the site. And it would probably help me, being a really visual person, if we had a sketch that identified where each of these things are going and what the flow of traffic would be and where the parking would be. And I know that's maybe a little more detailed than you're at that stage now, but you can see we're making sure that the site functions with so many activities that are not like, you don't find them at Maynooth. You don't have public works. We don't have plow trucks coming through in Maynooth. It is one nice building, but we got a lot more going on here. And so I'm curious to see that can be made work as a site. And then my second thought on this is, we are talking about some significant amount of money. We've been challenged to come up with $1.5 million to $2 million to fix the arena. This is also going to be some similar significant amount of money. So what I'd really like to see is there a business plan? Can we develop a business plan? What does this look like? Where are the savings? Because we invest, as I said, in shared joint green energy sources. can we get some sense of what the overall impact is going to be? Because it is probably Madawaska Valley taxpayers who are going to be fronting some portion of this if we get this grant. So it's a very big subject. I'm not saying it's a, I'm not saying it's a no. I'm not saying it's a yes, let's do it. I'm saying I'd sure like more information, because while the library's been working on their component, those of us struggling with attempting to renovate the municipal office and all the challenges of that particular building, which has reached the end of its life cycle. So we know we have issues. I know the library has issues, and they've been working on them. I think one meeting or 2 meetings isn't enough. This is something where we need to begin to start to work together on a broader concept for that property. And then how are we going, what's the process? How are we going to pay for it? What can we do? So I see this as a great, interesting beginning, but I see a lot of work ahead to make it come to fruition. And I recognize you have to apply for the grant, but if we got the grant tomorrow, what does that mean? And how are we going to deal with that? I guess that's where I'm at.
I think that's the difficulty. And Mary Love, I think you're right in many ways, but I don't want this to go too far ahead. I think we're really looking at this point in being able to get 2 grant applications submitted. That's really all we're doing. What I'm suggesting is, while we're doing that, we need to start looking at the big picture and develop the type of things that you're talking about. We need to develop a sort of business case for the whole property, a site plan, all these things, if we are looking at that. But initially, because there are going to be costs, but if we do it, there are potentials that our arena, rather than us having to pay the 2 point whatever million, we may only have to pay 600,000 if we do get the funding. The library, 60% will be funded if they are successful. The other 40% is being worked on. And the library board is looking at methods to come up with that. So, you'd have 2 components which hopefully would not end up costing the taxpayer. Down the road, yes, we're certainly to develop it. But we're right now, we're just looking at applying for 2 grants so that we can maximize the potential money that is out there and hopefully bring some of it in. If we were successful in getting both of these grants, we'd be scrambling, but in a good way. Mary Love.
Sorry, I think you misunderstood me. Absolutely, we need to apply for the grants. This opens up, I guess I see down the road, I see a lot of work, I see a bigger picture, and I see a need to get on with it, because if we are successful, oh my, there is a lot of work.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not saying don't apply for either. I'm saying, yes, we need to apply for the arena. Yes, let's apply for the library. And we may not get the library this time, but that doesn't stop us from starting that work and applying again. Right?
That's right. And that the library may not be successful, but either way, they needed to have a site. They needed to have a location that they could build on. And if they have to use it for a future grant, fine. But they needed that information. And this is also recent. Our working group met on the 25th. The library board met yesterday. And it could have gone either way. The other site being beside the existing municipal office. We'd be talking very differently at today's meeting if they had said, no, we want that site. So, there's a lot of things that are up in the air, and there's a lot of thought that will have to go into this as to what we're going to do. My thoughts right now is we had a successful working committee meeting where we looked at initially and said, yeah, this could work on that site. The long-term vision will have to be thought about pretty quickly, but for a grant application, we can suggest this as a site. And the second part is the arena, where we're already ready to go and we need to get that application in. So that's really what we're looking at right now.
Okay.
Sorry, can I just add? Oh,
yes.
Sorry. I did want to say that with the application and this, I mean, in future with the library plan, it introduced me to a program that actually provides very detailed information. And Mayor Love, you'll love this program once I get it to work. It basically will tell you if you spend X number of dollars this year and in 5 years, you'll eventually start making your money back. It will break down the green aspect of the funding and say you'll start to see a turnaround in year, whatever year that is. So it will be applicable, and in order to apply, it has to be done on both of these applications. So that information will be provided to council as well.
Thank you. Mayor Love.
Sorry, that's fantastic. So I have one question. Is the grant contingent on the location? I know you need to put a location in, but if as we're working at this, it proved out that it would be better in the other location, would that mean the grant was not able to be got? I'm just, is this a very final decision we're making today, I guess is what I'm asking. Or is there potential as we work on this to make that change? We have two obvious possible locations. Is this a final decision?
We discussed this yesterday at the library board, and for the grant application, yeah, we do need a site, but I believe that if we had a second location that we could prove was, or a better location became available and we were successful in getting the funding, the same amount of funding we would be able to argue our case that we could transfer to a different site. All right. Any other comments? Sue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to, I guess, just summarize. So to ensure that we're on the same page. So by approving this resolution, Council is confirming that they agree that the Paul J. Yakabuski Community Center site is a location for the library. And that will allow the library to move forward to allow for the conceptual plans and architecture to make suggestions to come forward. But I would stress that at this point that municipal staff and council as a whole would be consulted in the design of that build after the conceptual plan was made, to ensure that many of the community hub inclusions, which were all discussed during the library strategic plan and the municipality strategic plan, that they should be considered, and further that the use of the existing building then incorporates some of those. So I just want to ensure that this report is not misinterpreted, that the resolution to proceed with the grant application is an inference that the library board is moving forward independent of council. And I'm saying that because I know that wasn't what was coming forward, but just I want to ensure that that's not the inference out in the public. That at this point, council, as it pertains to the size and whatnot, would be involved in those discussions to ensure that all of the needs as it pertains to addressing the needs at the municipal office, the meeting spaces, all of the issues that were brought up as in the strategic plan, that we wanted to address through community hubs to ensure that it truly is, that we truly are working towards community hub.
My understanding is that council or that the library is aware of that. And I also think one other point that I didn't mention, but you know, one of the things that shows the cooperation is if this site is approved, that's municipal property, which we are basically putting the new library on. So the municipality is heavily involved already in investment in it. So, you know, I think there's an understanding, yes, that the library board and the municipality need to work closely together on this, particularly if we have a vision for a long-term plan or vision for that space. Mayor Love?
Okay, I know this is a strange kind of question, but it comes to my mind based on what Sue said. Is the expectation going forward that this is a library building that is owned by the municipality, or is this a library building that is owned by the library board? I want clarity on that, because currently the municipality owns the library building and the land it sits on. Are we talking something different, or are we talking the same concept?
Karen?
I guess I'm assuming it would be the same concept that we have now, that that part of it wouldn't change. It's a good question, but my assumption it would, you know, it's municipal property. We're going ahead with the blessing of council and we're working together on this. So I think that part should stay the same.
Okay.
Mark, would that be your?
That has been my understanding on how we're proceeding, and I get the feeling that that's the rest of the board's feeling too.
Oh, okay. So I just want to be clear then, it ultimately, the expectation is that this will be a decision of council as to the final approval. I'm just, because it would end up being a municipal asset.
Yes, I think it should. In those cases, it should. I think the board is going to do the work, and the board would appreciate all the help they can from the municipality, including final approvals and any other way that the municipality can help.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be clear on that. Thank you.
Sue?
And yes, just to reiterate, so I think, yes, the final approvals, but I think it's at this point now where council should be brought into that vision as it pertains to the space requested and the use of space and how that can be deemed like a shared space as well. And are they looking at some revenue from some of the meeting space, or, you know, as we work towards the funding of that. So I think we should be sooner than later involved as the conceptual plan is being drawn up, in fairness to the architect that is donating his time, that we put, you know, we itemize all of those suggestions that were both looked at through our strategic plan and your strategic plan, so that we're not duplicating that work.
No, I agree with that. And I think that's important that everyone works together, and so that we don't miss anything, so that we, you know, take advantage of any opportunities that are out there that may benefit the library, may benefit the municipality. Mayor Love.
Okay, thank you. So I think that it is important that we're working together, because the municipality at this point was looking to invest in renovating our existing building. And it hasn't happened in part because of significant challenges with the mechanical components of the building that would all basically have to be gutted and redone. So this is a good point to start the work, because if it could prove more cost effective for council and for the municipality to actually look at a project where the library and the municipal office are together. That could prove to be far more cost effective over a reasonable payback period than investing in an existing building that we know has space limitations, has mechanical issues. It has seen better days. For our use, isn't sufficiently big enough. So I think this is a much bigger subject for council as well to look at. Whoa, maybe we stop moving forward beyond the basic things that we know had to be done at the municipal office, and we look at where do we reinvest the money we had set aside, and where are we going with this, because our better business plan may be a new build. And I know that's not a component of this grant application, but it may prove to be more cost effective, especially if we are able to get involved in mechanical systems that are more efficient and effective, for example. So I think that this opens a lot of new possibilities for the municipality as well, even though we're not eligible for a grant. I think there's a lot of work ahead rather than spending money fixing what we've got.
I agree. And I think with the timing of the grant, mean, obviously the library's grant isn't going to be ready right away, or grant application isn't going to be ready right away. I would suggest that it might be worth forming a working group with library board, municipal staff, municipal representatives to sort of look at that whole concept and to try to get some costing or work it out. One of the things with these grants, as Stephanie just said, you know, they have to be green build, and you can sort of look out and see how much it'll save in operating. And you know, we were just on both cases looking at getting the applications in for the grants for the various projects. But you know, the opportunity, this might allow for an opportunity to speed up some other things and to relook at some of the things we're doing. And I think that opportunity is there, and I think it opens up a lot, and I think we need to find a way to get some people looking at it quite quickly. Sue?
I believe Stephanie had mentioned this previously, or maybe I saw it in the report. This is definitely a phased-in approach we'd have to take. I believe this specific green energy grant, the municipality, was there not something that the municipality could not apply for, Stephanie?
Municipal buildings.
Municipal buildings, yes, okay, yeah.
The municipality would have to be the applicant. But we would not qualify for a municipal office. Anything administrative does not qualify.
But it would qualify for the library if this was like a phased-in approach, okay.
Well, we could pay for the building, by itself in the same project. That wouldn't be an issue. But we'd be funding it ourselves, not covered 60%.
Mayor Love?
Yeah, I think that is the question. I recognize there's no funding for a municipal building, but are we throwing money, are we putting money into a building that we can't make work, right? We know there are challenges with our existing building. So there may be a good business case that we can develop for this partnership, even though the municipal office component doesn't get any funding. There may be a good business case we can develop for this partnership, whereby by looking at a new build with energy efficient components, we actually end up in a better position. We, you know, if in 25 years we've paid for the new build without through a certain extent through some of the energy savings and through expending what we would have spent anyways to exist in the other building, this may be the time to do that. And that allows us to get the benefit of the shared spaces concept and the things that we could jointly between the library and the municipal office use those shared spaces. And I mean, otherwise we're not getting the benefit of that. We have meeting spaces at a library building, and we have a municipality that's at this other building with not enough space, and the challenge of not having access without everybody having to go over to the other new build. So I think this is a real point in time where we need to really do what Councillor Wilmer has suggested and start the process of really digging into all our options to see if there isn't something better that we haven't recognized up to this point that we could be doing.
I agree completely. And I think, you know, putting facilities together and having the municipal office with shared space with the library is a much better way to go than a standalone library. I think particularly, you know, in the location we're looking at in that sort of area, that, you know, it would be, I think, a huge benefit to have both of them together. But as I said, at this point, we're just looking forward to the applications. And I think this discussion has been great. because it's got us thinking in a bigger picture like way, which I think is important, because there is a point where you're throwing good money after bad when you keep putting money into a facility that's past its prime or past its life cycle. Stu?
Just wanted to say, you had mentioned before about a working group doing that. And I think at this point, once it gets to the conceptual plan, it should just probably be a special council meeting where all of council is included in some of that. I agree. Maybe at the beginning, a working group being just to compile all of those ideas together. But I was just wanting to clarify at what stage it would be a special council meeting involving all of council to have input into that. So.
Okay, is there any more, Mayor Love?
So on that point, I think that you have to have something to bring to council, and all we've got at the moment is some generalities that we've sort of bashed around a bit, and we certainly should formulate like a skeleton of this idea and maybe put a little bit of something into it before bringing it to all of council, because it may prove there's no way this is going to be viable. It may prove this could be viable. So we're not asking council to make a decision about whether or not to build a new municipal office as a component of a new library just yet, because we haven't done any of that investigative work that might give us some sense of what does this look like in general. And so much of that is going to be going on anyways. So I think I would just wait a little bit. We're not asking for a decision yet without bringing something that actually helps council to make a decision. And right now we've just had a general discussion. We haven't committed to anything other than looking at this. I think that's what we're asking for.
Yeah, right now, so much of the information is just general. And I think, as I suggested, maybe a working group to gather the information together to get enough detail so that something can be brought back to council in its entirety that is worthwhile. And so it gives us something to look at, shows us whether it is possible, maybe a rough idea cost, these sort of things. But I think that would be, the working group would be a good idea. And once enough information is gathered, then bring it back to council. Councillor Schulis.
Wow. Under one roof. What a great concept. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, are there any other comments? Sue?
Can we just then schedule another meeting with the existing working group? Or are you proposing a new working group be established?
No, I think the existing one would be fine.
Thank you.
All right, so we've had a good discussion on the grant update. We do have a recommendation from that. Just one comment I'd like to make. I just think we should just amend it slightly and just to include the correct name of the grant, which is Green and Inclusive Community Building Grant. Just so because I think the inclusive part is also very important when it comes to the criteria.
So for clarification, it's Green and Inclusive Communities Grant?
No, Community Building Grant, just a second. Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Grant.
Through the chair, did you want me to read the recommendation, the resolution?
Yes, please, Sue.
That the grant update report is received as information and that staff is directed to proceed with the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Grant application to retrofit the Paul J. Yakubuski Community Center Center based on the past application and requirements, and that the Madawaska Valley Public Library Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Grant application be supported using the location at the Paul J. Yakubuski Community Center area for their proposed new build.
And I will so move. Could I have a seconder? Mayor Love. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that's carried. All right. Thank you very much, Karen. We'll move on now to the next item, which is the generator update report. And this is Raymond's report. Is it?
I speak now.
Hi, Raymond, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm hungry. Lunch. We've got lunch. But anyways, where do you want to start? The generator?
Yes. If you could give us an update on that. We have a recommendation to spend approximately $28,000.
Yes, that's to repair all the components for the DFA. What we have to get done. I tried other companies to find out if we could find other people that could do this work, but Galloway seems to be the only crew that can do this work with their license. The other thing is we tried to what the yearly contract, service contract, we have to get a yearly contract with Galloway as well, because of the other TSA outtrumps the TSA. So we have basically no choice to fix our generator, to bring it up to code.
And I think this is something that we were aware of, that it would be costly. So I don't have any other comments on it. Are there any comments from any member of council on this item? If not, could I have a mover, please? Mayor Love, and seconded by Councillor Schulis. Since there's no further discussion, Sue?
Can I read the resolution to ensure, because we're going to have to enter into an agreement with Gal Power.
Sure.
For the semi-annual. So through the chair, that council approve the facilities manager recommendation to proceed with the maintenance of the Paul J. Yakubuski Community Center generator at a cost of approximately $27,949, and that staff proceed with the lowest bid, and that council approve entering into an agreement with Gal Power to provide semi-annual maintenance in the amount of $2,165 per year.
All right, and I had a mover, which was Mayor Love, and seconded by Councillor Schulis. All in favor? And so that is carried. Thank you, Raymond.
That will be brought back by bylaw, Councillor Wilmer, at the next council meeting. Okay.
Okay. All right, item 9.14 is summer student update. And
Oh, I'm not muted. Okay, sorry. I just wanted to bring this report to council to let you know that we have hired the students in the following positions, with one more student to be hired. So based on this report, that's what we're looking at for the summer season.
okay, well, that's excellent, and it's nice that we have these positions filled. And I just look forward to a good summer and hope that things open up slowly and safely over the summer. Any comments? This is just for information. All right, seeing there's no comments, we'll move on to item 9.15, Paul J. Yakubuski Community Center. facilities manager update report. So again, it's Raymond or Raymond. Yeah. Do you still have Raymond?
I'll go grab him.
All right, we're just going through your report, Raymond. It's again information.
I don't think he's there yet, Councillor Wilmer. I believe Alan was going to go and.
Okay. Oh, I thought that was Raymond that I heard.
Sorry about that.
We just need you back for a short while, just for your facilities manager report. And basically it's the work that was done in April 2021.
All the floors all stripped and re-waxed. In the arena, parking lot garbage all cleaned up. All broken beer bottles and glass around the outdoor rink all cleaned up around the ball field. Bleacher is all boards been replaced by Alan. Washing walls in lobby, hallways where it's needed. Some painting done where it's needed. That's about it so far, and just keeping every day, clean spots that need to be cleaned.
All right. Well, that sounds good. So everything's going as scheduled.
So we're just talking about when we're going to start the ice. That's my next question. So we have no idea when we're going to start.
Not at this point, no.
Well, it's June already, and we got 2 months. We start our winter. So that's our probably next conversation.
We can all be hopeful that things get back to a little more normal over the summer months. So hopefully we can look forward to the fall.
Yeah.
Anyone have questions or comments on Raymond's report? Stephanie?
Just as a side note, I know Raymond, it's not in your report, but you had had the water heater repaired in the Zamboni room, as well as the Zamboni, I keep saying Zamboni. The ice resurfacer has been taken to resurf ice to be repaired as well. I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Well, that's, yeah, there was something with the, what was it, the Zamboni?
The axle.
The axle had to be replaced. That was a warranty. And then I called them back because when we'd go out to flood, we'd get a full load of snow. And then when we go out the second time to flood, the box was half full. So I said to Tom, the guy I was dealing with, what was the problem? He said, well, all the chlorine from the water from the city, it needed a good cleaning, and then put shampoo every 2 weeks to the inside of the box. I said, well, we haven't got enough room in our room to lift the box because it's the front lift. And I says, how can we solve the problem? He says, well, put a new liner. And I says, well, okay. So it's $550 to put a new liner in our box. So we should save that. Shampooing it every 2 weeks to make the snow lighter. And the other thing with the hot water heater, working on since February, finally the new one showed up last week. So the serviceman came to install it, and he's coming out of the building shaking his head. I said, what's the problem? They shipped up a gas one. So he emailed back Reliance's, and then the new one came in on Friday. So now I'm just waiting to hear back from the service guy when they're going to hook it up. So hopefully we'll have that up and running soon.
So it sounds like you're on top of all the little problems going on. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Sue?
Just a statement. So it does state that on May 25th, the Paul J. Yakubuski Community Center lobby was used for vaccination of approximately 30 employees for the Valley Manor. And it's my understanding from talking to Raymond that I believe they had another one today. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Or that we didn't know it. Yeah, we figured it out. It's all good. Everything's good. They're all happy.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you, Raymond. We'll move on now. Again, that was for information. We'll move on to the next item, which is the facilities coordinator report. And if we have Alan available, there he is. Okay. Welcome, Alan. If you'd just like to go through your report and sort of note any highlights, that would be terrific.
Okay, so just basic update is the ball field, the infield mix got spread around, topsoil, seed, everything like that. So ball field's pretty well ready to go. The water fountain is cleaned out and functioning at the Water Tower Park. Topsoil seed was put in the train station, and the water sprinklers are turned on probably for another week because we're supposed to get a hot week yet coming up. Lakeshore bathrooms got a coat of epoxy on the floor due to wear and tear. Some bathrooms that are open right now are Lakeshore, Mayflower, Cumbermere, Boat Launch, Crooked Slide, and Wadsworth. And the rest will be opening up shortly. Train station students are going to be starting shortly. Same with the tennis court, getting all their paperwork ready, all that kind of stuff. There was a bad tree at the Cumbermere rink that was entangled in the hydro line, so I called the Welsh to take it down for us. And that pretty much sums her up what's been going on.
I just wanted to mention one thing, and that's the washrooms at Wadsworth Beach. Perhaps you could talk about them, but you totally renovated those, and they look amazing.
Yeah, so at Wadsworth Beach, we totally refurbished it, made sure everything structure-wise, all that was good. I sent Stephanie pictures. I don't know if you've seen them or not. Question is the color on the outside of the building okay? The red. It was like a light brown. I just want to know everybody's opinion if that's an okay color or not. But yeah, other than that, screens were put up so the bees can't get in, make nests, all that kind of stuff. And our bathrooms should be getting pumped out here on the 15th. But otherwise, yeah, it went pretty good.
No, I thought it looked great. I like the red.
Okay,
it really stands out. So it looks good. Councillor Bromwich.
Yeah, just I got a couple of inquiries as to why the trees were cut down at Wadsworth, and I didn't know what to say. I noticed there's one shade tree left out there, so was there
They were
a problem?
dead.
They were dead.
They were all dead. There was actually last year we got many complaints that it was an embarrassment to have dead trees standing there because they didn't provide you any shade.
Thank you. That's my answer. Great. Thank you. That was easy.
Now, to that point, possibly since the writing of his report, Alan, did you want to report on, I do know that council had budgeted $10,000 for Wadsworth, and I believe you were instrumental in getting some quotes to get some work done at Wadsworth Beach. Did you want to speak to that? Because I do believe you've received some quotes since then.
Yeah, so I got a couple quotes from local contractors, and I got one for sure from Mervyn Olszewski. He said he'd probably start digging this Thursday to remove all the alders and everything along the water. All the other contractors that I got in contact with said they're pretty busy with their own projects and everything, and wouldn't be till near end of July or so by the time they'd be able to do something for us. So I basically told Merv Malczewski to go ahead because I want it done before all the cottagers come down and it gets too busy. And this way we don't get no noise complaints.
If you can elaborate on what that work involves, Alan, I don't know that all of council maybe is aware of what it is that that will do there.
So basically from the water side, about 20 feet up towards the road, they're going to remove all the alders. And we have beach sand on site, and wherever there's holes or anything, they can dig into the bank, refill with the beach sand, make it look pretty for us. And also at the same time, planning ahead to make like a little road access for handicapped people in the future. This way, we're kind of set up for that too. This way, they have access to the bathroom and all that kind of stuff.
I think that's a great idea, and I think it'll make a huge difference. Just getting those alders out will really benefit the beach.
And I think the thought was as well by clearing that area, there will be some shaded area there because there is still some trees above the top there that would be helpful.
That's great. Any other questions for Alan? Mayor Love.
Hi, thanks, Alan. It's quite a hefty list of things that you have here, and I don't know if you've completed all of them, but it's, you know, you're in many different places. I'm wondering if some of the things that are on the list for the PJYCC could be handed over to Raymond, because you're clearly working in many other places doing lots of repair work and tidy up work and getting things done. So I just noticed there's a somewhat of an imbalance in the amount of work that is available at the PJYCC. I can't see why you would be doing it when we know we could use you in all these many other places. Is there things that could go to the other list?
Yes, not a problem.
Yeah, just to free you up.
But then too, I'm also planning for rain days. At least I got something I can do inside here. So at least I'm not twiddling my thumbs kind of deal, right? So that was my idea.
Okay, yeah, no, clearly you're not twiddling your thumbs. There's lots of things on your list that you're either actively doing or have completed or have planned to do. And it's all things that do need to be done. I just, you know, if there's things at the actual PJYCC, perhaps Raymond could be working on those to free you up, because you're definitely busy throughout the municipality at many of our various recreational sites, and all the things that are getting done are fantastic. It's going to mean we're in tip-top shape for this summer, and people are going to want to enjoy the outdoors. So thank you, Alan. I do appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you very much, Alan. Appreciate it. All right. If there's nothing else for Alan, we'll move on to the next item, which is email from Susan Leclerc, Craft Cabin report. Stephanie, do you have any comments on it, or? You're muted, Stephanie.
Did it again. Sorry, it does state in her letter that June 5th is their planned opening date. We have had a discussion with her as well, and it will be pushed back because of the emergency order. They can't open until the non-essential business is open. So it'll be, I believe, the weekend after June 14th. So it'll be the 19th that they open, but that's everything else in their report is should stand.
All right, so this again is just for information. So if there's no more comments, we'll move on to, we have budget.
Chair?
Yes.
Are we certain we have quorum?
Oh, that's a good question. Councillor Bromwich, are you there? Yes.
Okay, I just, when the public can't.
here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just when the public can't see we have quorum at a Zoom meeting, I think we need to be mindful of that.
It's a very good point, and I apologize for not checking because my papers are blowing around in the wind, and I'm having a difficult time. Anyway, so we'll move on. The only thing we have left is the budget to actual report. If everyone's had a chance to look at it, does anyone have any questions, comments?
Nope.
All right, if not, that is for information. We do not have any correspondence and information, and we have no unfinished business. So with that, I'll turn the chair back over to Mayor Love.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wilmer. And it's 12:55. I think we're all probably hungry. Could we take 45, 50 minutes for lunch? Would that be acceptable? We'll have a bit of a break. And when we come back, we'll do fire and protection and move on to planning. So could someone please move that we break until 1:45? Moved by Councillor Schulist, seconded by Councillor Bromwich. All those in favor? And that's